welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
And today we're looking at part 2 of our article, Blue Zones, Places to Live Longer and Healthier.
Yes, and so in the first part, we kind of found these 3 places that are known to be in the blue zone and people are living really long and all this kind of stuff. And at the end, we found out there are some principles that they all live by. And we think one of them probably has to do with diet. So I have to ask, do you pay attention to your diet?
I do pay attention to my diet, and I think I have ever since I moved out of my parents' house. Because I remember when I was first living on my own in university, and I thought it would just be easy to just cook a pot of rice and eat that for my dinner every night.
Yeah, that doesn't work so well.
No, I actually put on a lot of weight during that time, and I was a lot heavier, and I didn't like that. So from that point on, I sort of learned how to eat healthier and what things were better to eat than just rice. And yeah, it works, and I'm healthier now than I was when I was in university.
Yes, and that's the kind of nice thing is that if you're paying attention to your diet, you will feel good. It's not just about how you look or if you're gaining weight or losing weight, but a healthier diet really just makes you feel good. Your brain feels nice and clear. You don't feel as sore. You feel kind of like you've got this energy. You don't feel kind of like, we usually say sluggish. If you kind of eat too much or too much sugar, you might feel a little slow and sluggish. So a healthy diet really makes a difference, that's for sure.
Yeah, it does, and I think it also makes a difference for these blue zones and why they live so long. And we're going to find out more about that after this.
Three principles in blue zones have to do with the people's diet. First, they don't drink very much. If they do drink, it's usually wine, and they have it with food. Next, the people mainly eat fruits and vegetables. They also eat plenty of beans, nuts, and whole grains like corn. Last, the people stop eating when they feel 80% full.
All right, so we are on part 2 of our blue zones, places to live longer and healthier. So first part, we got to see what are the 3 places. We have Ikaria, Okinawa, and Sardinia. And now we need to know more about their principles that help them live to 80, to 90, to 100, so we can all follow them.
All right, and I can't wait to learn how I can live as long as possible. 3 principles in blue zones have to do with the people's diet. All right, so we mentioned in the intro about things that we eat to stay healthy. Well, someone's diet is all of the things that they eat or drink. So all of the things that they consume by eating and putting into their mouth and into their stomach. That is all what makes up a person's diet. So some people will talk about trying to maintain a healthy diet, or you might also hear someone talk about going on a diet. And when someone says that, they usually mean they're going on a special diet to try to lose weight. So they're going to change their diet from what they normally eat to something different, usually to try to lose weight.
Hi, I'm Tina. 我们来看一下刚刚课文里提到的单字跟文法重点。首先来看看单字的部分。Diet 名词，饮食。Bill follows a healthy diet to stay fit. Bill 遵循健康的饮食来保持健康。我们再来看一下文法重点。刚刚课文提到了 A has to do with B，A 和 B 有关。我们来看看这个例句。This problem has to do with the weather. 这个问题和天气有关。接着我们回到课文当中。
Okay, and then back to our article, it says, first, they don't drink very much. If they do drink, it's usually wine, and they have it with food. Okay, so they kind of cut down on their alcohol consumption, because right here it says they don't drink very much. Now that doesn't mean they're not drinking water or juice or this kind of stuff. When we use drink in this way, we mean alcoholic drinks. So they're not drinking a lot of different alcohols. And if they do, they might only drink wine, which has been kind of known as kind of the having some benefits to your body, like red wine, having some antioxidants or something that can kind of help with your overall health. And they drink it with food. But most importantly is they just don't drink very much of it.
And that's, of course, important for everyone's health. Continuing with our article, next, the people mainly eat fruits and vegetables. Okay, so most of their diet is coming from fruits and vegetables. And as we all know that fruits and vegetables are good for our health, but often it's difficult to remember or to always make sure to eat enough fruits and vegetables. Back to the article, they also eat plenty of beans, nuts, and whole grains like corn.
Okay, and again, that's the thing. When I was a kid in America, we had a food pyramid that tried to tell you what you were supposed to eat in your daily diet. And so sometimes it's kind of hard to remember all these different things, but I do remember learning that beans and nuts and whole grains were really good for me, even though I really didn't like beans at the time. But they are very healthy, and especially this whole grain. So if you're choosing to eat bread a lot or sandwiches a lot, if you're choosing whole grain, that is healthier than the refined grain or the kind of white bread. And so what is whole grain? Well, basically that just means that they've left the grain totally intact when they are going to turn it into bread. So they haven't kind of grinded it up and separated it and taken some pieces out of it. They've left it all together. And so when you see whole grain bread at the store, you might notice that it's kind of a more brown color. You might even be able to see little kind of seeds or something inside of it, versus the refined grain bread that might be the white bread that just looks totally white and plain and it all looks the same. So that one is not as healthy as the whole grain, because whole grain has lots of more nutrients and vitamins and things like that you can't get from your white bread.
And one example of a whole grain that they give here is corn. So you might not even think of corn as being a grain or a cereal crop, but actually corn, that yellow thing with kernels of corn on it, on a cob as it's called, that is actually a very large cereal or grain crop that has been, through years and years of people growing it. We've made it bigger and more to the way that we like to eat it, so that it's juicy and sweet, and actually I don't think it's all that healthy.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was wondering, because I feel like the sweet corn that I eat with lots of butter and salt on it in America, I don't think that's the most healthy thing.
But it is a whole grain, because usually when you eat corn, you are eating the whole piece of corn. You're eating the whole grain.
Yes, and so then we continue with our article. It says last of the 3 principles about food, it says last, the people stop eating when they feel 80% full. Okay, so they're not eating until they are so stuffed that they can't move and they have to go take a nap. They're eating until they feel like, okay, I'm okay right now. If I eat any more, I will be too full. But right now, I'm all right, and I can still walk around and move and not feel like I ate way too much, which is also a good thing.
我们来看一下刚刚课文里提到的单字 corn 名词玉米 The farm grows corn every year 这个农场每年种玉米 whole grain 全谷物 This bread is made of whole grain 这款面包是由全谷物制成的文法的部分呢刚刚提到了 plenty of 大量的什么可以接不可数名词或复数可数名词 Plenty 是代名词，意思是大量。我们来看看这个例句。We have plenty of time to finish the project. 我们有大量时间来完成这个专案。接着我们回到课文当中。
All right, well, not eating till you're fuller than 80% is always a good thing to do. And you usually just have to wait a bit after you eat in order to know how full you really are. Okay, well, we're going to find out more tips like that one when we come back after the break.
By eating fewer calories, they prevent weight gain and other problems. As a rule of thumb, they have a large breakfast, a smaller lunch, and an even smaller dinner.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about this blue zone diet that people have and how they, eat healthy things to stay healthy. So we first learned that they don't drink very much alcohol, but when they do, it's usually wine, and usually it's drink with food. So they're not just drinking wine, it's just with a meal of food that they're having. We also learned that they eat lots of fruits and vegetables, and also things like beans, nuts, and whole grains, so whole grain cereals. Also, the last thing we learned is that they stop eating when they are 80% full. So they're not getting to the point where they cannot eat anymore, but they're getting to the point where they are full enough and they feel satisfied and they can stop eating.
Yes, and that's actually something that I've heard. I've heard that if you eat slower, then you tend to eat fewer. You eat less if you eat slower because you realize that you're full before you kind of eat way too much food, which is kind of an interesting idea because this eating less food is a real thing that helps your health. And it says by eating fewer calories, they prevent weight gain and other problems. Because of course, we know that when you gain a lot of weight or if you have more weight on your body, that can lead to other health problems. So having less weight or kind of maintaining a healthy weight can keep you healthy. And that has to do with this little word called calorie. And so this is kind of a little bit tricky. It's a noun and it has an actual scientific definition that talks about it being a unit of energy that raises the temperature of a kilogram of of water and raise the temperature and blah, 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 blah. There's this huge scientific definition for it, but that's not how we use it in kind of everyday life. How you will run into this word quite often is when you're talking about food. And so you want to know how many calories are in the food because it basically means how much energy will you need to spend to get rid of that food, to let your body kind of get rid of all of that food. And so we know if we eat lots of calories, it's much easier to gain weight. If you eat fewer calories, it's easier to lose weight or stay at the same weight. So how you will use this word most often if you're not talking about a scientific way is to say less calories means less weight gain, more calories means more weight gain. So you will see this on that kind of little nutritional panel when you look at your food. They will have a little section for calories and it will say how many calories does that food contain.
And you mentioned about gaining and losing weight. So what is weight? Well, weight is the measure of how heavy something is. So when someone talks about their weight, they're talking about how heavy they are, how heavy their body is. You might measure it with a scale at your house or when you go to the doctor to see how many kilograms or pounds you weigh, and that number is your weight. So for example, I might say the weight of the meat I bought for the barbecue is 500 grams.
Oh, that would be a good steak. So we also had this gain weight in here. We talked about gaining weight and we have gain as a noun. So instead we're using weight gain. And this just means to increase the number of something. If you have a gain, then you have an increase in whatever you might be talking about. For example, you could say a financial gain, which means that you have come into some money, you've got some more money than you had before, or again, as we're doing now, a weight gain. So you weigh more than you did before. The number or the amount of whatever it is that you are talking about has gone up. You have gotten more of that thing.
我们来看一下刚刚课文里提到的单字 weight 名词体重。Anna wants to lose some weight before the summer. Anna 想在夏天之前减掉一些体重。Gain 名词增加。Eating too much chocolate can lead to weight gain. 吃太多巧克力可能会导致体重增加。Calorie 名词卡路里。A healthy snack should have fewer calories. 健康的点心应含较少的卡路里。接着我们回到课文当中。
Getting back to our article, as a rule of thumb, they have a large breakfast, a smaller lunch, and an even smaller dinner. All right, so they said a rule of thumb. Now, a rule of thumb, well, this is your thumb, and this expression rule of thumb actually comes from people using their thumb to measure things. So you could use your thumb as a ruler back when standard rulers were not so common that everyone had one. You could use your thumb and the length of your thumb to measure things. So what a rule of thumb means today, it means a guideline that is followed that is usually learned from, actual experience. So something that happened in the past that has taught you that this is the way things should be done. So when we say as a rule of thumb, it means an approximate rule, approximate guideline. So it's not definite all the time.
我们来看一下刚刚课文里提到的文法。A rule of thumb 一般而言，这个谚语源自于过去工匠或木匠会用拇指的长度来大致测量物品，意思就是一般来说，大致上看来。我们来看看这个例句。As a rule of thumb, you should get 8 hours of sleep each night. 一般而言，你应该要每晚睡8小时。接着我们回到课文当中。
Okay, and so now we've got a little bit about what does that look like to live in these places? What are they eating? What are they doing? And all of this kind of stuff. And so that kind of wraps up what we've learned about this and what we can kind of take in on our own to kind of have a healthier life.
All right, well, aside from diet, there's got to be some other things that people do in these blue zones. But we're going to have to wait until next time to find out what that is. So we'll see you then.
Three principles in blue zones have to do with the people's diet. First, they don't drink very much. If they do drink, it's usually wine, and they have it with food. Next, the people mainly eat fruits and vegetables. They also eat plenty of beans, nuts, and whole grains like corn. Last, the people stop eating when they feel 80% full. By eating fewer calories, they prevent weight gain and other problems. As a rule of thumb, they have a large breakfast, a smaller lunch, and an even smaller dinner.
我们来复习一下这一课的重点单字跟文法。单字的部分 ，diet 名词饮食 ，corn 名词玉米 ，weight 名词体重 ，gain 名词增加 ，whole grain 全谷物 ，calorie 名词卡路里。接着我们来看文法的部分 ，A has to do with B，A 和 B 有关。The meeting has to do with the company's future。这场会议跟公司的前景有关。Plenty of 大量的什么 I thought I had plenty of time to finish. 我以为我有很多时间可以完成。A rule of thumb 一般而言 As a rule of thumb, you should have 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. 一般来说，你一天应该喝6至8杯水。以上就是这一课的重点单字跟文法，那我们下一课再见喽，拜拜。
My feed is so positive today. Everyone's posting opinions about this movie that I agree with.
It looks like you're living in an echo chamber.
Echo chamber? But I don't hear any echoes. Echoes?
No, Shane. It's just an expression. It just means that you're only hearing what you want to hear. It's like you're living in a space where everyone supports your ideas and everyone agrees with you.
Oh, I got it now. But it feels good to be surrounded by people who understand me.
Well, I guess it does, but isn't it also nice to hear perspectives from different people so your views are not limited?
That makes sense. Maybe I should start following people that have different views from mine. Hi everyone! Today we're going to explain what an echo chamber is.
That's right. An echo chamber is when people are only exposed to opinions that align with their own beliefs, especially on social media.
It's like being in a room where every time you shout, the echo repeats the same message. That's why it's called an echo chamber.
Social media algorithms often reinforce this by showing you content you already agree with, which traps you in an echo chamber.
Right, and it's not just on social media. It can also happen at work or in friend groups where everyone shares the same opinions.
You can use the term like this: the forum turned into an echo chamber where everyone simply agreed with each other.
Or living in an echo chamber can limit your view on important issues.
Exactly. That's why it's important to step out of the echo chamber to understand different perspectives and form well-rounded opinions.
And that's all for today. See you next time.
See you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.